something in their mouth. Well, I think there's one
Twigs.
that doesn't. Twigs. I want to make a home with you. Right? And you also have caterpillars and some butterflies and some moths, and we believe that's like the progression of love, the growth of love. It will develop, over time to become something beautiful. Stylized carnations. Carnations came from the Middle East, and the story is that when Mary was at the cross and she cried, her tears fell on the ground and pink carnations grew, and that's why we get pink carnations associated with Mother's Day. But it was for purity, for devotion, for that was the symbolism with the carnations. But if you remember the shape of the carnation, because I'll talk about that later on.
Okay.
That's how it would have been worn, right?
Yeah.
It would have been gathered up and pinned on it was not for everyday wear. But when you were wearing it, you needed somebody to help you to dress. Once you had that on, there's no way you're doing housework, so you needed servants to do the housework. And it was extremely expensive to make. So it was a status symbol. It showed that you had money and that you had servants.
Yep.
Right? Well, let me look at this blue and white. This is known as the gift box. This was the box that the gift was in. This wasn't necessarily the gift, right? But it was given to the emperor, and it was basically something that was covered in symbols to give him long life. If you look at the centre at the top there, can you see the peach? The peach is a symbol for long life, and the character that's written into that, the Chinese character, is shu, and that means long life. On either side of the peach, can you see, I'm going to use a technical word here, can you see the blue three-lobed blob? Yes? That looks as if it's exploding with other blobs.
Yes.
Okay? Well, they're not blobs. They're actually linseed fungus. It's a type of fungus. It's a sacred fungus, and it was believed if you ate that sacred fungus, you had eternal life, right? Or it gave you long life, and you can still go online and buy that as a Chinese medicine.
Okay.
Right, but I said to remember the shape of the carnation. Remember that particular shape as well.
Yep.
The one with the bit that's exploding.
Yep.
We talked about the oak in the petticoat for long life, right? How long do mountains last? We want you to be here as long as the mountains. There are also dragons here, which were symbols of royalty, but particularly these ones were for the emperor. There was a pecking order in dragons. 5 claws, that was only the emperor. So you see this was made for the emperor because it has the 5 claws.
Okay.
And you also have at the corner here, right? Can you see these wee flying creatures?
Yep.
These are bats, and these are another symbol for longevity. And you've got the linseed fungus all the way around the edge. Now there are certain shapes that you will see time and time again in Chinese artifacts. That is one of them, that 3-lobed shape. They will stylize it into all sorts of different ways, but that shape, they keep coming back and putting that in. Sometimes it's very obvious, like this one here, like the fungus that's on this particular here. Sometimes it's just a wee swirl, right? There's another shape as well. I'll show you this guy up here, this vessel. If you look at his cheek, can you see that sort of spiral box shape? That's known as a meander. That's one of the oldest shapes that you will see in Chinese porcelain or Chinese bronzes from BC times. That was a design that they put onto things, and the Chinese still use it today. If you go into a Chinese restaurant or you go into a shop and they have Chinese dishes out, you will probably see that shape somewhere as a part of the pattern, and you will probably see something in the shape of the fungus as well.
Yep.
This wee piece here is known as the Champion's Vase. This is a beautiful wee piece of jade, the Chinese thought of jade as the most precious stone, and they gave it they were in the belief that it stopped flesh from rotting. So if you had a piece of that, it would give you long life, right? And if you put it in your tomb, it would help to preserve your body from rotting, right? That's a better picture of it in this here, because this is one of the things that was sent down to London. But if you look at the piece here, we have a bear and we have an eagle. Now, the Chinese language is made up of lots of different sounds, but it's quite a limited range of sounds. And so there's a lot of wordplay, right? Things sound like something else, and so they become associated with this other thing. The Chinese for eagle is a yin, and the Chinese for bear is chong. And if you put the two together, yin chong, it makes up the word champion or hero, right? Okay. And so that's why this is called a champion's vase. It was given as a prize for archery. You see the two cylinders, that's where the quivers would have gone. Mm-hmm. If the arrows, that's where they would have gone. But it's a beautiful, beautiful piece, extremely hard stone. And so this would have to have been rubbed and drilled, hand drilled to make the shapes. And you can see the circles complete here. It is an absolutely beautiful piece.
And the circle moves?
Yeah, it does. I'll show you this plate because once again I'll show you something else. We come down here. This is a piece of porcelain. Now, porcelain was invented, the process of making porcelain was invented by the Chinese, and they held on to it for over 600 years. This is one of my few bad jokes, right? Until about the 1700s when the Germans cracked the problem. Anyway, this piece is porcelain, but the important thing about it is the shape and the fact that it was made for export, right? This is a communal eating plate. So they were making these and they were sending them along the Silk Route to the Middle East, and abroad, but mainly to the Middle East, because that's where where they eat from communal plates, as opposed to the Chinese. If you go to a Chinese banquet, there are lots of smaller dishes that people help themselves to. They don't usually have big plates of food, right? But the thing about it is, it's a combination of designs. You've got a wave pattern round the outside, which is a Chinese design, and you've got the lotus, which is in the inside, which is a Chinese design. Some are facing in, some are facing out, so it's to keep the good spirits in and the bad spirits out, right? Another, and I know it sounds daft, but another traditional Chinese decoration. Can you see inside? See the white circle that's in there, but can you look a wee bit closer and you'll see that there are two lines in that, and the same in the top. The two line is another decoration that they put on time and time again onto their pieces. On the inside, right, we have bamboo, which is a Chinese symbol. But if you look up at the top, can you see the inside circle? Can you see the wee black mark on the circle?
Yep.
Right. Come inside and follow one of the stems all the way along here. Pull that stem out, and it's lots of blue flowers. Okay? That's a stylised hyacinth. And hyacinths came from the Middle East. But if you look at the flowers of the hyacinth, what shape are they? The blob.
The blob again.
Yes. They're using a Chinese symbol in there to that. These leaves that come out, these are in Eastern design. These are known as saz leaves. And these are symbolic for protection. They're supposed to be like the scimitar, right? Okay. And they're also supposed to be, they're also thought to be like the flowers that were in the Islamic paradise. This was the paradise garden that's in their faith. So that's the things here. Right. Let's go round. This is the sort of thing that we saw that the cauldron. It doesn't have that. It's got the wee men at the feet, which I think are quite odd. Mm-hmm. Right, we'll go through an arch. Right, you okay for time? What would you like to? Is there anything you'd like to see in particular?
Nope.
what I'd like to show you are maybe a wee bit of stained glass, a wee bit of a tapestry. That's a nice view looking through here. You see the window through through. I'll show you one piece of stained glass. I'll just go for one piece today. Look at this wee bit. This is what I call the Swiss masterpiece. This is two scenes from the life of St. Francis. And apparently when St. Francis was born, an angel came down disguised as a pilgrim. And you can see from this, you can see his beautiful cloak and his boots, you know, and his hat. He's very stylish, very, you know, very well dressed. But the giveaway, of course, are the wings. But the thing is, you wouldn't have been able to read, so you had to know that wasn't just a guy coming to meet these two women. This was an angel. And what the angel said to St. Francis's mother was, you've got a great kid here, he's going to do wonderful things, but he's going to have problems. You know, the devils are going to be after him. Wouldn't it be wonderful to get word early on that your kid's going to have trouble like that you could take some precautions? Anyway, here we see beautiful wee devils working away and up on above ground, working away to make his life a misery. We know this because this particular piece here, when translated from the old German, that's the stories about St. Francis here. We know that it was made for a couple in Zug in Switzerland getting married, and they get married in 1671. These things we knew. What we didn't know was who exactly made it. There were suspicions, but we didn't know who made it, right? Until it was cleaned. And way down here in this wee part here, can you see what I call a wee fly's leg? Mm-hmm. Right? And that's part of the letter M. And that tells us definitely that it was made by a man called Michael Muller IV. And Michael Muller came from Zug, and he, surprisingly, he kept records of what he made, and it corresponds with his works, and we know for sure that that is it because that's got the M in it. Now, if you go down to the V&A, they have several pieces in a similar breakup as this one here. They have several of these on show, but every single one of them says possibly. We're the only one in the country, as far as I know, who actually has one that can be verified as being from Michael Muller. But it's an absolutely beautiful, beautiful piece. Look at the work in that. Look at this, you know, the shading in the houses. It's a piece of stained glass that has been painted back with enamels and then fired. But it's I call it, as I say, I call it a 6-inch masterpiece. You know, it's just a lovely wee piece.
Excellent.
It was one of the first pieces that Burrell bought. He bought that in about, I think it was 1911, 1913, 1914, something like that. This room was created to hold the larger tapestries that we have in the collection, but unfortunately we can't have anything with that up because we have water coming in, and the mezzanine level, which is up here, has been all closed off because of that.
I saw that.
We're supposed to tell you something. Oh, that's where it went. I didn't know it. This is new. This is a new piece that has come out. I haven't read up about this bit yet. Tapestry. Right. Today we get lots of things in shops called tapestries, tapestry kits, and they're embroideries. Right. The difference between a tapestry and an embroidery is that you can unpick an embroidery. You cannot unpick a tapestry because a tapestry has been woven. If I show you this, right, this is a piece of tapestry that was made by my son when he was at primary school. And if I pull it tight like this, right, do you want to have a seat? If I pull it tight like this, it shows you how it was made. And that is how it was made. What you've got here, right, are threads going along the way that are held in a loom.
Yep.
And they're known as the warp threads. Okay. And then you've got the coloured threads that go through it. They're known as the weft, and they're woven. And that is how it was woven. The warp thread runs across the tapestry, because once it's hung, that takes the weight. If you imagine it was hung like that, eventually the threads would start to weigh down and you'd end up with holes like that, right? This is from France, and it shows a rabbit hunt. It has there are 3 pieces to this set that are known. Run me round, I'll show you them. One is in San Francisco, one is in France, and they show different scenes.
Are you filming that? You alright? I don't know.
Don't tell me you don't like being on camera, David. I do not believe that.
Get paid for it.
I'll hear that story sometime. This is the rabbit. This is the rabbit hunting with ferrets, and this one here is the peasant picnic. So this is how they would have gone, right? This is preparing for the rabbit hunt. This is the rabbit hunt itself, and this is the picnic afterwards, right? And you can see it's the same people that are in the same clothing that are in each one, right? Very intimate, very intimate. If you look, they're all close to one another. They're all in a circle. They're almost touching. In fact, some of them are obviously touching. It's a lovely piece. Who are they? We haven't a Scooby, right? We don't know. It could be that the people who had it made had peasants and just used their faces. It could be the people themselves dressed as peasants, right? We just don't know. One of the things I found that if you look, see the guy up at the top there with the turban hat on, right? Look at the shape, what we would call shading, right? That is actually, that's spacing that they've left, spaces that they've left in the tapestry that give you. It's not thread that's giving that shading. It's actually tiny spaces that they've left in there to give you that. But it is a beautiful piece. We've got a lovely white ferret up at the top there with pink eyes.